Hi, welcome back to West Coast Geeks. I'm your host, Joaquin. How we doing, people? Today's video, Dungeons and Dragons, the box set that started a gaming revolution. And to help me navigate through this is my boy Greg.
Hey everyone.
Everyone indeed. For those of you who are new to the channel, hello. And for those of you who have been watching our other D&D videos, thanks for stopping by. But if you're new to the channel, I'm gonna ask Greg a question that he's sick of me asking, but Greg, you started in 3.5, correct?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I started playing D&D back at the age of 8, back in 1980. So, excuse me, folks, had to take a little drink. Um, my friend Joey had an older brother named Jeff, who was a dungeon master, and he got his brother to play and then asked his brother if he had any to play. And so there was usually like three of us, but for the life of me, I can't remember who the other kid was to this day. Because he would be on and off. So it's usually just me and Jeff playing. And I was telling Greg that, you know, as I was looking through this book that I haven't looked through in like decades, and I'm seeing all these rules, which we're going to be discussing about. We didn't play with like a quarter of these rules because he made it very simple because we were kids. So, Greg, when you started in 3.5, did your DM like cut out a whole bunch of stuff, or you guys pretty much played by most of the rules?
No, I basically just jumped in and had everyone explain the rules to me as they went along.
Yeah, Greg's pretty good at picking up stuff like that. So, this is the box set I got for Christmas, and I was so excited when I got this. And I opened it, and I was like reading through it, and I could barely understand half the stuff that I was reading. And my father would explain to me, but half the time he would just tell me, "Here's a dictionary, go look up the word." And then after you look at the word, if you don't understand the paragraph, then we can talk about it. So, I played the game not so much learning the rules from the book, more I learned the game by because this is what I was shown. And then, like a year later, I was, my comprehension improved. And so I had a better understanding of the game. But that's where I started. And man, this artwork still holds like almost 50 years later, dude. What do you think of this art?
Little dated, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah. Nice composition, perspective, nice use of color. I mean, it really does grab you. Like if you were just walking by and you saw that, and it's like Dungeons and Dragons, and you're like, "Whoa, what is this?" All right, so let's get on to the next stage. So, as you can see, what does the box set come with? You get a box, you get some dice, you get a module called B1, which we're not going to go in today, and you get the core rule book. The module is going to be another video. So in the back, it's like you are holding a fantastic world of swords and sorcery adventures. In your hands is Dungeons and Dragons. You become a mighty wizard, a fearless warrior, a stout dwarf, a clever halfling, or any dozen other adventurers ready to explore the mazes and labyrinths of a vast, deep dungeon. Or perhaps trek through the uncharted wilderness in search of fabulous treasure and magic which are hidden there. But this wealth is not easily gained, for terrible guardians lurk nearby, and such monsters of orcs, ogres, trolls, giants, dragons, and even worse. I gotta do the voice, dude, like the announcer voice. It's a must be defeated in order to gain the hoard treasure. So, if you're new at that time and you looked, you're just like, okay, this is different. So this is what you got. And I remember these dice fondly. I don't think Greg ever got a chance to play with these dice. They roll horribly. The edges get worn, but you know, it's what we had.
Complaining about the
All right.
dice.
What?
The dice were bad. How can the dice be bad?
Yeah, they were bad, dude. They were a hard roll. Like you had to really shake it up, baby, and make sure that you did the sliding hand motion going across because if not, they weren't going that far. And this is not my original box set. I actually had to buy this like about 15 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. The box set that I have of that, I've had that box set 3 times, and all 3 times it's been wrecked to hell. Because that box set went with me everywhere. So I got the original, Dragon magazine. And here's the opening page by Gary Gyack and Dave Anderson, and edited by Eric Holmes, which this box set is credited for. It's called the Holmes Edition. Um, they made a previous addition to this game, and it was I want to say it was called Chainmail or something, but it was originally the rules were based for a tabletop miniature game. And that's how Dungeons and Dragons was created because they were doing tabletop miniature games and they wanted to have fantasy armies, and so they needed to make rules. Did you know that, Greg?
Mm, not really.
Yeah. I like it took like it's like one of those fun facts that I learned you kind of learn but then you forget after a while. It's like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Like a lot of people don't even know that there was another box set, starter set before this main one right here. So we got battle here. So we have, it shows up with the preface, and I'm not going to read this because I'm actually making another video that's going to go over the foreword and the preface, and I'll have pictures and stuff as I read it out. So we got the table of contents, and I actually have the book here with me too. So the book's only 48 pages long, people. For rules, characters, magic items, monsters, everything.
Still too many pages.
I'm sorry?
I'm just saying. It's too many pages. It's always been too many pages.
Oh, you think so?
And it's even more pages than it used to be.
Well, yeah. I mean, now it's like up to 300. But, back then, this was like a very simple concept of the game. We got the intro, which again, I'll be reading. So, creating characters was very simple. You just needed a piece of paper and you got your dice rolled. And just like you have now, like if you have above average scores, they did give you bonuses. And they also gave you penalties on certain requirements. So if your primary requirement is 15 or more, you add 10% to earned experience. So I bet you Greg's like, we should bring that rule back. I want extra XP. And if your primary requirement back then, if you were like a fighter or a mage or a cleric, your primary requirement would have been like, for strength. Mages would have been, intelligence, cleric's wisdom, thieves dexterity. So if you had any of that, you got a bonus. They also were very limited on the races you could play. Dwarves, elves, halflings were the only, and humans. There was only 4 races you could play, but they did talk about, as you can see in the lower right hand corner, additional character classes. They're like, these are subclasses for the 4 basic classes. They are Paladin, Ranger, Fighting Men, Illusionists, and Witches, Magic Users, Monks and Druids, Clerics, and Assassins and Thieves. There are half elves, special characters for dwarf elves. Halflings, thieves are given. And the reason why they did this is because the player's handbook had already came out or was about to come out.
This when
And
elves were a class.
yeah,
Yeah.
they weren't a race. You just played. This is what you played. You're like, I'm an elf. They're like, oh, okay.
Like your
An
profession.
elf
My
what?
profession is elf.
Yeah, I like that. And as you can see, they have a very basic starting equipment list, and you roll 3 six-sided dice, and you multiply them by 10. Now, Greg has seen me roll dice, so he knows I'm pretty good at rolling dice. But if you sucked at rolling dice and rolled like 3 ones, you only had 30 gold pieces. And back then, they pretty much, which was called the Iron Man, where most of the time is you rolled your strength, you rolled your ability scores first. Then you figured out what class you could be, and then you would pick your race. Not so much in this edition, but the next one. That way you could get whatever bonus to try to help you. So if you got 30 gold pieces, dude, you're looking at like leather armor. Maybe you take like a mace. Like you wouldn't even afford a sword, a mace or a hand axe. And then you would grab like a backpack and some equipment. And that was your motivation to go and go adventuring. Sounds fun, doesn't it, Greg?
Yeah, actually, it sounds a lot better.
I like that too. You know, like there's a reason why most people went out and became adventurers because they didn't want to be farmers, blacksmiths, or whatever. And they were usually broke, which is why they would take on jobs. And so even back then, they had hopeless characters. Sometimes the universe of chance allows a character to appear who is below average in everything at the DM, the dungeon master's discretion. Such a character may be declared unsuitable for Dungeons and Dragons and left at home. Another character would be rolled to take its place.
Yeah, I think
Did you ever see this interview with Stephen Colbert and
oh,
Joe something? Know who I'm talking about?
nope. I know who Stephen
He's a
Colbert is, but
director. Oh man, Joe. He starts with an M. But he was talking. He was on the show with Stephen Colbert, and Colbert would just say, "Well, the player's gone farming." You know, like if you rolled up like really low stats, you just went farming. They talk about number of characters.
playing bad characters is some of the best stuff for role playing.
You, you know, okay, so we had a good example of that in our play group. So Patrick rolled he rolled
Terrible.
a
Yeah.
6. He rolled a 6. And I told him that he should keep the character and role play it through because, you know, he's an experienced player, so it would give him an opportunity to role play through this, you know, like whatever he decided to be, he would become better. And, you know, I thought that would be a good experience for him. And he lost it, dude. He did not want to do it. And, you know, fortunately we didn't get to continue, but, you know, his whole thing was to play and kind of like to, like, you know, like, well, I could do all this stuff, but I can't because Joaquin's making me play this character. I'm like, I'm not making you play. I mean, I just thought it would be cool if you did, but okay, fine. Like, Greg, would you have taken that challenge?
Yeah, I would have done it. But I
Oh, hell
also
yeah, I know
rolled
you would have.
reasonably well, and I was like excited to play that character too because I had like a 20 and an 18. I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever had that before. So,
Yeah, most of the time you don't
but
get those
I
type of.
like having a flaw. I think every character should have a flaw, like a sub 10 at something.
Yeah. You know, whether they're not that smart or not that wise or not that quick, not that strong. Maybe your constitution's weak. Character alignments. So we're eventually going to be doing a video on alignment, but so back then they had, you know, they got lawful good to give an example, unicorn, blink dogs, good, which is basically neutral good, chaotic good, brass dragon, elf, neutral, and then they got law and chaos. lawful evil, chaotic evil, and then you go like bugbear, chimera, gargoyle, and spectra or specter. And they give an example why they introduced alignment, which I always thought that alignment was a good what's the word I'm looking for? A kind of like a you know what I'm trying to say, Greg? Not a buffer, but a moral compass for your character. And so they're like, um, if the DM feels that a character has begun to behave in a manner inconsistent with his declared alignment, he may rule that he or she has changed alignment and penalize the character with a loss of experience points. Now, most of my DMs or myself have never played with that. You know, that I thought that was just cruel. But it said, the example of such behavior would be a good character who kills or tortures a prisoner. Hmm. Where have we had that encounter before, Greg?
I don't see the problem with that.
so, yeah, alignment's tricky. I mean, what's your take on alignment, Greg? I mean, we're not going to do a video on this, but you know, just a
Um,
really quick view on it.
Kind of see why it's there, but I generally don't like it.
Now, um, it's mostly like there were certain classes back in the early editions. So, like, if you were a paladin and you made the prerequisites, you got a lot of power, but they didn't want to give you all this power and have you go abuse it.
I think that's not necessary. I mean, maybe, I guess, but
That was one way of them reining it in. They had languages, and the language you always knew was your alignment, which I always thought was interesting because I've seen some people explain it to be almost in like political terms or whatever. But I was like, so you're saying words that most people outside your alignment wouldn't know? I go, that doesn't make any sense. But back then, you could speak your alignment. They give time and movement or encumbrance, which is pretty much negated almost in fifth edition, with everybody grabbing bags of holding as fast as they can go out there and buy it. Give you rules for light. Simple rules for like trapdoors, secret doors, surprise, wandering monsters. Surprises may occur when one party is unaware of the other party's presence. A roll of 1 or 2 on a six-sided dice means the party or the monsters were surprised. So back then it was just real simple.
mhm.
You know, he just rolled, and if you rolled a 1 or a 2, you're surprised. A character surprised by a monster may drop whatever he's holding on a dice roll of a 6, and the monster gains first reaction. I should implement that rule. Wouldn't you guys love that?
Or I could drop everything.
A character surprised by a monster, I have you roll a d6, and if you roll a 6, you drop your sword or you drop your shield.
Why would I do that?
I don't know. That was their surprise rules back then.
That's not like
They talk.
it's like not attacking from surprise. That's like going out and saying boo.
I know, but that's the rules, man. It's. I guess we'll call it the boo rule. It's like if a party surprises a monster, they get an opportunity to cast a spell, shoot an arrow, shut the door, run, draw a weapon, attack before the monster can react. And they give you like 3 levels of wandering monster table. This opening box set was just basically to help you get through the first 3 levels of D&D, and then from that point you were supposed to move on to the player's handbook. Another fun fact is before they did this box and they were converting over to this edition, out of the monster manual, player's handbook, or dungeon master's guide, what do you think they did first, Greg?
I think the monster manual was part of the original Dungeon Master, wasn't it? Wasn't it
Yeah, they
9?
had their own little supplements and stuff with the chainmail. They had their own little books. But yeah, the first book that they made was the monster manual because they were like, well, you already got rules, so these are just more creatures and a heads up of what's to come. So I don't know exactly when they launched these two, but they launched them pretty close together. And then the player's handbook came out. And then the following year, it was the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Mhm.
So, like, monster reactions, as you can see, were very simple. Um, if you rolled a 2, they attack immediately, hostile, uncertain. Like, there was no charisma modifications. It was the DM rolls a d12 or 2d6s, and that determined what happened. You got experience points, fighting men, elves, halflings, and dwarves. So you got the levels right here. Fighters were veterans, warriors, swords masters. They had 8-sided dice. Mages had 4-sided dice. What are they? What are current mages right now? 6 or 8? I think they're 6, right?
Wizards, I think they're
Yeah, they're 6. Yeah, and then clerics are 8, and I
4.
think thieves are 8-sided dice too, aren't they?
No, I think there's still 4. It was bad. I remember it being really bad.
Yeah. No, I'm talking like for 5th edition.
Oh, I know. I remember. I just played a wizard not that long ago. It was bad. It was
Yeah,
not
I think it's like
much.
1d6. Or maybe it is a D4. I don't know,
It might be a
folks. Leave it in the
D4.
and
It
leave it
was.
down.
It wasn't good.
And we're currently playing 5th, so you had your clerics and your thieves, and then dwarves, halfling, and elves progress as fighting men, but halflings use a 6-sided dice for hit points. Elves progress in 2 areas, fighting men and magic users. They use 6-sided dice. And now we get to go to Thieves Abilities. So once you are a first level thief, you can open a lock at 15%, remove trap 10, pickpocket 20, move silently 20. But if you climb the sheer surface, you had an 87% chance. Hide in shadow 10, hear noise, roll 1d4. I mean, roll of 1 and 2 on a d6.
Oh, that's lovely.
That is so low.
Yep.
Open lock 20%. Once you're second, and when you're third level, you have a 25% to open lock, 20 to remove trap, 30% chance to pickpocket, 30 to move silently. And when it came to climbing surfaces, they just kept going up 1 percentage point, and not the 5 and all that.
Oh, great.
Yeah, pretty much. And they're like, and they're pretty good about giving like examples and stuff throughout the entire book. Like they're like, Drago, the thief, tries to pick a lock on a treasure chest. He is a first level thief, so he needs to roll 1 to 15% on the dice. He rolls 3 red and a 0 white. A 30 is not good enough to open the lock. He's allowed only that one try, one roll of the dice to open it, because no matter how long he works the lock, there's only 15% chance that his inexperienced thief can get it open. Not like today where you're just like, well, I just wait and I try again.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah. So, cleric abilities, you had the turn undead, and then T is automatically turned away. So once you hit like a second level cleric, you're automatically turning like skeletons. And when you're third, you automatically turn skeletons, zombies. And then apparently you have no effect on a mummy, specter, or vampire.
Right.
So hopefully you don't run into those at second or third level.
Hmm.
The use of the word level. The word level and use of the game is to mean successfully deeper strata of the dungeon labyrinth. Also, characters advance in experience by level At each new level, they increase their hit dice. And you're just like, what? Like the manner that they wrote some of these rules are just so dry compared to what they do now, you know. But hey, this is first edition. Magic users, based on your intelligence scores, you get a chance to know any given spell, and you have a minimum, maximum, like you do. They have saving throws for different creatures and classes.
Okay.
So unlike today where they just break it up with like con, intelligent wisdom, it was broken up in like spell or magic staff, magic wand, death ray or poison, turn 2 stone, dragon breath. And if you look down the charts, it's like, wow, dwarves, all they need to do is get an 11 for magic wand or death ray and poison or turn to stone is 12. Like they had really good saves, dwarves and halflings,
Yeah.
you know. And this wasn't modified. This is levels first through third. I was like, what? Yeah, man, I'm telling you, people, you got it easy now. You just don't even know. Oops. And then click it over. All right. Monsters, saving throws. We talk about that. First level spells. These were the first spells of the game. Charm person, dancing lights, detect magic, enlargement, hold portal, which is a spell to hold a door, a gate, or the light, or the like. It's similar to locking spell. See below, but it's not permanent. I don't know if you'd have ever taken that, Greg. Magic
Hold
missile
the doors
protects you
open.
from
That would have been helpful at least once.
maybe. Remember, you only got to cast these spells like once a
I don't
day.
know. I mean, you have like these people constantly are the bad guys run away from us, and
I
now, and
do.
now I can just hold the door open so they can't just run away.
There you go. Yeah, it's called playing intelligent creatures.
Play your play against your GM, not against the villains that they create.
Mm. So, read languages, read magic, shield, sleep, 10 thirds floating disc, ventriloquism. And this is all broken up by levels. So, I was always used to that. And then, as the other books came out, I was like, oh, I kind of like this. But I can see why they changed it to just be alphabetical order because it just makes it easier for you to look up. Um, Second level spells, audible grammar. By means of this spell, the magic user is able to create an auditory hallucination. This is a second level spell. I'm like, what? Now this is like a cantrip. Continue light, darkness, detect evil, detect invisibility. Is ESP still in the game? Or did they switch it out to something else?
In 3.5, they had psionics.
Hmm.
Remember that mess? Oh, that
Yeah.
was overpowered.
Oh
Bullshit.
yeah. It's even overpowered in first edition when they
They had psionics in
went
first
advanced.
edition.
Yeah, they did. And, we'll go over that when we do
Mm.
that video, the player's handbook. But it was broken as hell if you rolled high and kept rolling high. Look at this. Invisibility is a second level spell.
Isn't it
Greg's like, how come it
still?
can't be like that again?
Isn't it a second level? It's a second or third.
I thought it was third in current.
Uh,
Maybe it is
like
second. I don't know.
lesser invisibility, I think it's second. It might be third, but I think
Mm,
it's second. You get it really early,
yeah.
but you can only do one
Uh,
person at a time.
Invisibility, which lasts until the user or someone outside force breaks it. The magic user can cast it upon himself or any other person. Excuse me, person or object in range. The next spell is knock, and then after that is levitate. I should have forgot to switch over. Yeah, come on, click over. levitate, locate object, magic mouth, mirror image, phantasmal force, pyrotechnics, ray of enfeeblement, strength, web. As you can see right there, the illustration. I always did love that illustration as a kid. That was super cool. And wizard's lock. So that was second level. Third level. These spells can only be used by magic users of 5th level or above. And they cut it out there. They're like, yeah, time for you to go buy the player's handbook, people. Cleric Spells. First level, cure light wound, detect evil, detect magic, remove fear, resist cold, light, protection from evil, purify food and water. Second level, bless, find traps, hold person, no alignment, resist fire, silence, snake charm. Like, really? But, you know, they didn't have no druids in that edition.
Charm the snakes.
Yep. And speak with animals. Then they had evil cleric spells. Evil clerics have basically the same spells as good clerics. However, their spells are in italics and are reversed for evil cleric. The reverse spells are cause light wounds, detect good, darkness, contaminate food and water, cause fear and curse. Like in first edition, evil clerics weren't allowed to have healing spells.
Right.
Which I always thought was weird. I was like, why?
That kind of
Like,
that still existed in 3.5, I think.
yeah, they kept it for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know if it survived in 3.0, but I know it went through most
No,
of
it
the
was
advanced versions
there
of
because
Dragon.
you would if you were an evil cleric, you could use your quote healing to heal undead,
Yeah.
but it would harm the living. It was all weird.
Yeah, definitely had it, definitely had like a little place. And now we get into the thing that everybody, the new players all make fun of and hate and said it was so boring and hard to understand. But I don't understand all that. I mean, it was just Thalco. And Thalco just represents to hit armor class 0. And that was just their basic chart. Now I'm not saying that Thalco is a better system because it's not. I'm just saying this is the first edition and it's been improved.
Mm-hmm.
You never got to use Thalco, did you?
I've heard of this. I don't think I ever got to use it
No,
though.
because by then I think they improved. That's when they just said you roll a dice, and then you just add, and you have to tie or beat the armor class. They give rules on poison weapons. The victim must make his saving throw against poison or paralyze, and they also take a number of points damage indicated by the dice roll. It is recommended the dungeon master does not allow to make use of poison weapons in all but extreme situations. You can throw fire, which actually does more damage, I think, than what they had before the flask, because these do like 2d8,
Right.
and the fire burns out in 1d10 rounds.
No, they really nerfed the objects. A lot of the objects are really weak. And where's the
Yeah,
stupid the tangle thing? That's what I want back.
yeah. Well, that's third edition.
Yeah, but that's what.
We go over the holy water. And its effect on the undead. And now we move over to like missile fire people, and they give you the ranges. They talk about cover. And so the archer must subtract -2 from his dice roll if they're behind a wall, rock, if they're like partially exposed. And then that was it. Either like you were partially covered or you were covered. And it was up to the DM to decide that. They talk about magical weapons here, combat round time, movement, and melees. Pretty much similar to what we have now. Who gets the first blow? The initiative was a little bit different back then. When two figures are brought in a position of 10 scale or less apart, they may engage in melee. The character with the highest dexterity strikes first. If the dungeon master does not know the dexterity of attacking monster, he rolls it on the spot, subject to the limitation of heavy weapons. Two figures exchange blows until the melee is resolved. If dexterities are within 1 or 2 points of each other, a 6-sided dice is rolled for each opponent. The higher score gains initiative first. And I want to say back then it was a party. Like you just rolled, the party just rolled. And then you have parry, like a carry can parry. Um, Melee resolution, conquer, withdraw, surrender, or die. They give a little example. Bruno the Battler. Second example, they get they're talking about the party is being attacked by 6 large spiders with 1+1 hit point, hit dice each, and they are 100 feet away. Malchoy, the magic user, throws a sleep spell, but only affects 4 of them. So they did a pretty good job. Like they do most of the time of explaining their rules and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a little wordy, but
I
yeah.
think overall they really have. I mean, with any game, because you have to write it in the English language or any language, there's always going to be loopholes because you don't write it without loopholes. It's very hard to write uh, a single sentence that doesn't have a loophole somewhere, or not so much a sentence but a paragraph. All right, so now we get into the nitty gritty. Okay, so of the 22 pages that we're now on, now we hit the monster section. That was it.
Or
That was it for your character class and what you could do and all
mm-hmm.
that stuff.
Yep.
And it's not even 8, it's not even 22 pages. We're talking about maybe 18, when you take away some of the other pages.
Yep.
So, um, this game would be nothing without the monsters. Let's face it. I mean, nowadays you could actually play a game without playing with monsters because you can do cities or towns or whatever, but you know, this is what really made it popular. You go into a dungeon, kill some monsters, get some treasure, and you know, become higher levels so you can kill bigger monsters. So, who made it in first edition? Bandit, Baliska, Berserker, Black Pudding, Blink Dog, Bugbear, Carrion Crawler, a Chimera, Cockatrice, Displacer Beast, Genie, Doppelganger, Dragon. So the first set only had 4 dragons: a white, black, red, and brass. And they were saying that you will find other ones later, basically. They give you their hit dice for very young all the way up to ancient to give you their breath weapons. We have dwarves, elves, fire beetles. I mean, pretty much the basic stuff that you guys are all used to. I'm trying to see if there's something in here that they haven't added. Gargoyles, gelatinous cube, ghouls, giants, hill giants, snow giants, frost giants, fire giants, cloud giants, storm giants, which I always thought was weird that you would put a character fighting a giant at second and third level.
Why not?
Would you have done that, Greg?
Why not? It's not.
I don't know. Most
It's not one character though. It's like a whole party versus one character. And that,
yeah, but you're gonna get each giant that hits you is like even a hill giant, they get 1 attack.
I know, but like you're not putting multiple hill giants against the first level party. You're just doing one. That would be challenging, but quite doable, I would think.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know about first, maybe second or third would you can take on a couple of hill giants, but yeah, it would be an experience. Giant ant, giant centipede, giant rat, giant tick, gnolls. As you can see, the bottom pictures, those are the first gnolls in D&D, I think. They don't look as gruesome as they do now.
No.
All right, now we get to some cool art. All right. We have a gnome, goblin, giant ooze, green slime, griffin, harpies. So harpies are pretty brutal, and if you can, this video is not made for kids, and I always put that at the beginning. But there's, as you can see, the artwork back then was really geared toward teenagers and adults. So harpy illustration usually where there's these women who are also like half eagles,
Fine.
and they always had the upper torso of a woman, and they were nude. So that's my first time probably seeing like nude artwork was probably D&D. Hellhound, Hippogriff, Hobgoblin, Horse, Hydra, Cobalt, Lizardman. What do you think of these drawings right here, Greg?
Um, hmm, I should probably make them bigger so I can actually see them.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, you do have that problem. My bad.
um, yeah, I like the dragon one specifically. The other ones,
Yeah, the Hydra is pretty cool. I mean, it's just basic.
the
Uh,
part of the other one's kind of weird, but don't know what's going on with that. But sure,
yeah,
there
so,
definitely was an art style back to these old books.
yes, definitely. Like the lycandroves. How do you pronounce that? Lichens or
Lycanthropes,
lycandroves?
lycanthropes.
Lycandroves? Okay, yeah. So they had wereboar, wererat, werebear, were-tiger, and werewolf. You have a manicore, which you can see up there. Medusa, minotaur, mummy. You don't really fight mummies anymore. You ever notice that? You hardly ever run into a mummy.
You will on Mummy's Day.
Mm-hmm. Ogre gel, ogre jelly, ogre, orc, owlbear, pegasus, pixie. Purple worm is another creature that you just don't run into. I should have you guys fight one. You'll be fine.
Purple Worm was in the D&D Magic set.
Yep, those things are massive. Rust monster is always fun to throw at a first level character. The
Oh,
ones
that's
who have like all the expensive like plate mail and heavy armor. You're like, you see
yeah.
this creature with these weird antennas, and it looks kind of timid as it's coming up to you, all shy like.
What's the other one? The Atiug.
So rust monsters, this inoffensive looking little creature is the bane of anyone wearing metal. Hits by the rust monster or hits delivered to one causes armor and weapon, even magical weapons, to rust instantaneously. The creature is fast and attracted by the smell of metal. It eats the rust and corroded metal created by its anti metallic attack. So it doesn't eat the metal, it turns into dust and then it eats the dust.
Rust.
No
It,
cocaine snorting reference,
it
Greg.
eats
That was
rust.
kind of.
It's rust, not dust.
Well, it's rust is the little dust that's there. So shadow, shrieker, skeleton, specter, spider, large spider, huge spider, giant spider. Stirage, which are basically these little like bird-like creatures, and
Those are good.
they suck your blood.
Those are good.
They're pretty annoying. Troglodytes, trolls, unicorns, white, a wrath, and a vampire wrap up. Then finally we get yellow mold, zombie,
Yellow
and
what?
then they go into yeah,
Yellow.
yellow mold, and then zombies are last creatures.
Oh, yellow mold.
So
Okay.
yeah, yeah, you guys don't. I should have you running. I should have you guys run into mold. It'll be fun. So overall, what do you think of their little monster selection they give you with the book?
I mean, a lot of those are still pretty common. I
Yeah,
mean,
a lot.
classics.
Most of these monsters made the test of time.
I don't know about the mold. I haven't ever fought a mold.
Yeah. What is your favorite monster to fight?
Right.
Hmm.
Oh, I don't know. I think like villains like player character villains, probably,
Mm.
because they have,
Like a kobold who's a barbarian, that type of thing, where they're a little bit beefed up.
but like where they have like plots and motivations beyond just being a monster or
Mm.
something. I mean, dragons can do that. Beholders can do that.
Mind flayers,
Mind flayers.
beholders. I always like fighting mind flayers because I was like,
Yeah, just
like,
things that have a purpose beyond I'm bad. I attack you because I'm bad.
yeah.
Those are my,
So
but
here we go into the
there's a story element to them usually. So those are my
yeah.
favorite ones.
They're just not there, just causing destruction, just to cause mayhem. We go to the basic treasure values. 5 copper pieces equals 1 silver piece. 10 silver pieces equals 1 gold piece. 2 electrum pieces, which is Martin's favorite, equals 1 gold piece. 5 gold pieces equals 1 platinum piece. Then they give you gems. They give you a magical treasure table. So all these creatures usually had a treasure type next to them, and then you would look at the chart, and then you would roll random. This picture is a little blurry. Sorry about that, people. But so the magical items back then were there were swords, armor, weapons, potions, scrolls, wings, wands, and staffs, and miscellaneous magical items. So the magical potions back then: growth, diminution, giant strength, invisibility, gaseous form, haste, fly, poison, delusion, and healing, which is a d6 plus 1. Magical rings in this book are invisible, animal control, plant control, weakness. So this is kind of like a cursed item.
Oh.
Protection from plus 1 adds to armor class. And look at this. In the beginning, they gave you a ring of 3 wishes, ring of regeneration, ring of water walking, ring of fire resistance, ring of contrariness. The wearer will not wish to remove this ring and cannot be removed without a removed curse. Causes the wearer to do exactly the opposite of the normal or what is requested. If, for example, the wearer is told to not kill himself, he will agree and attempt to kill him, kill the person suggesting he not kill himself. What do you think of that item?
Wait, what is it? He's ordered not to kill himself.
Mm-hmm.
So the opposite would be to kill the person telling him.
Yeah.
No,
It's just one of those
is,
crazy like
isn't
D&D.
isn't the opposite of that actually trying to kill yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. There's a reason why it hasn't made it. It's no longer around. But what do you think about, first level finding a ring of 3 wishes?
Now, that's the stuff you need to give villains to do stuff with.
Mm-hmm. But the DM is reminded to greedy characters will typically ask for more wishes. The DM should put that character in an endless closed time loop, moving him back to the time he first obtained the ring. Wishes for powerful items or great treasures should be, if possible, be granted in a way that they are no benefit to the wisher. Wishes that unfortunate adventurers had not happened should be granted. Often, absolute literal fulfillment of the wish wording is sufficient to limit its beneficial effect. So basically, as a DM, they're telling you if you have greedy players, um, give me a good greedy player wish, Greg.
What? Um, what? So I wish for a million wishes. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's the loop. But if, like, say you wanted, like, I want 10,000 or 20,000 gold or something like that, they'd be like, fine. Either you get teleported into the king's treasury, or you find yourself in front of a dragon.
Right.
That's what they were encouraging the DMs to do back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, what? Why? All right, I guess. Um, their magical swords back then were up to +3, and then they also had like cursed swords and cursed armor, and back then they were +2 against trolls and +3 against undead. It's like the very beginning of a flame tongue. The other good sword to have was a +1 sword, +3 against dragons, or +2 against magic user, enchanted monsters. But the really good one was the trolls and the undead, because you're always fighting undead in early D&D at some point or another.
Oh, I don't know.
The magical,
The Mage Hunter one is always good.
yeah, because you're also fighting spellcasters too. The wands and staves they had a wand of magic detection, wand of secret door and trap detection, wand of fear, wand of cold, wand of paralyzation, wand of fireball, staff of healing, snake staff, staff of striking, rod of cancellation. And I want to say back then, they only had like so many charges, and that was it.
Yep. Yep.
So it was just like, all right.
That was
And
true.
the other thing was the DM secretly kept that from you. Did you know that?
Back then? Okay.
Yeah, unless you used an identify
Yeah,
magic spell.
you could identify, couldn't you? To get the number?
They didn't have that in first level, I don't believe.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I'll go back and look at the spell real quick, list real quick.
'Cause
But
in 3.5 they had the same thing until you identified it.
yeah. So yeah, there was no identify. That didn't come till later. Um Miscellaneous magical items, crystal ball, medallion of ESPN, ESP, ESPN. Yes, they had that one too. Elven cloak, elven boots, brooms of flying. Could you imagine that? Idea like you have the medallion of ESPN. What's that? You see the future. What do I see? You see humans of different races and colors playing a game where they take an oval shaped ball that you've never seen before, and they throw it to each other, and people cheer. Wait, what? that is the medallion of ESPN, people. I copied it right here. You heard it first. West Coast Geeks. All right. Helm of telepathy, bag of devouring. I'm gonna use that against you guys one time. Looks just like a bag of holding, except everything gets devoured. A helm of evil and good. I've actually used this to put on the Medusa in the Keep on the Borderland. We put the helm on her and we changed her alignment to good, and then she was part of the party.
Okay.
Well, we saved her life, and then we didn't kill her. So now that she's lawful good, of course she's going to join our party.
The helmet comes off.
It says this device, when a character places this helmet on his head, it immediately changes their alignment to the exact opposite. A neutral person wearing the helmet will simply be totally self-seeking and do nothing to help anyone else in any way. That sounds like a lot of player characters right now. The device can be removed only with a cleric's remove curse spell, and the person wearing the helmet would do everything in his power to resist the removal. So, I forgot what happened, but we only had the help of Medusa of like one more, like the beginning of an adventure, and then I think Medusa got shot by a bunch of arrows and died. And we kind of just looked at my DM, Jeff, me and Joey looked at him and said, how come they just target the Medusa? She hadn't even taken her cloak or her metal mask off. He's like, well, that's just the one they shot. Like, damn it.
Yep.
So we were not happy that day. Rope of climbing, gauntlets of ogre power. That's still pretty powerful. And then notes regarding to magical items. If a character fearing to contact some harmful magical item, has a hiring or non-player character flunky try it out, a newly found piece of equipment, the dungeon master must make stringent measurements against the character. The morals of those characters employed will plummet if they learn of such conduct. The person made to act as a guinea pig by testing the magical item will, of course, demand to keep it if it proves beneficial. Or if it's a harmful item to the person putting it, will seek revenge on the character who had him try the item out. So, first edition was pretty much vindictive. You know, I ain't gonna lie.
Well,
A lot of
it
those
was
modules
it was
were like death saves.
don't exploit the rules.
You know,
That's what it was.
yeah, there were heavy penalties if you did shenanigans. Um, like why would somebody keep following you? And you're like, hey, I've got this magic ring we just found. I don't know what it does. Henry, come over here. Put this ring on. Let's see what happens. But don't say I wish. you know? So then it gives some little tips of Dungeon Master is a fine art. Before players can take their bold characters on adventures into the misty, mysterious dungeons, the Dungeon Master must sit down, pencil in hand, and map out the dungeon on graph paper. Wow, people, graph paper. There should be several levels, and so basically they give you a little example here. Um, and they've always done this in every edition. They always give a sample of like how things should be. They're like, DM, you're in a stone corridor, 10 feet wide by 15 feet high, running north south. And then they always wanted you to designate a caller. So that was the leader of the group. We're walking north, a DM, 50 feet along the corridor. There's a door in the east wall. It's 5 feet wide. Caller. Halfling will listen to the door. So I'm not going to read the whole thing. So you get the picture. So they give you like some more advice to help you become a better DM.
Mm.
This one part of this paragraph is like the imaginary universe of Dungeons and Dragons obviously lies not too far from Middle Earth. J.R.R. Tolkien's Great Lord of the Ring trilogy. The D&D universe also impinges on the fantasy world of Fritz Lieber, Robert E. Howard, Gardner F. Fox, classical mythology, and any source of inspiration the Dungeon Master wants to use. So, they're trying to help you. They give you like a sample background for a dungeon. Again, this is to help you make your own dungeons and give you history. They actually put a dungeon in here for you to that's already filled out, so you can use this as an adventure. And they map all the rooms, give you the creatures, the treasures.
All the hidden treasure. 'Cause everything at that
Yeah.
time had ridiculous hidden treasure in like every room.
Oh yeah. Like we're gonna be going over everything, people. Trust me. This is the beginning. I mean, we're gonna be jumping back from going to the beginning to fifth 5e, but I thought it'd be interesting to make these videos because I really do like going back to the lore, and for me, it's remembering the good old days. For Greg here, it's educating him on um, what it was like in the past, and to see where a lot of Dungeons and Dragons great ideas have come from. Because this is the era that it started. Uh, Using the dice, about the editor. Look at that, Gen Con. Woo, you ever go to a Gen Con there in Seattle?
Oh,
Oh, man, neither did I. Never got a chance to go to that. And then they give you a reference sheet, which you could photograph back then or photocopy back then. Those were expensive back then. They tell you it's easy to remove, which it is. And then the last is the back sheet. So this is kind of like the cheat sheet for the Dungeon Master. And you got the Wandering Monsters tables and the Thalco. So if your armor class was 9 and the creature was first hit dice plus 1, they needed a 10 to hit you. And if you had plate and shield, it went all the way down to armor class 2. You needed like a 17. So, like I said, I don't know why people are tripping about that so much, but whatever. And last, once they released this, they pretty much just started dropping things left and right. The monster manual was already out. The player's handbook was out. They talk about the future release of Dungeons and Masters Guide. Um, these were the modules that were out at the time. B1, In Search of the Unknown. B2 hadn't made its place yet. It comes out the following year. Steading of the Hill Giant Chief, Glacier Rift of the Frost Giant Jar, Hall of the Fire Giant King, Descent into the depths of the earth, the Shrine of the Kuatoa, Vault of the Drow, which are D's, and then the G is for the Giants, and S1, the Tomb of Horror. You ever get to play any of these adventures, Greg?
Nope.
Yeah, all classics, dude. All classics. Remember as a kid, I was so excited when we got to roll up our 12th and 13th level characters for the Tomb of Horrors, just to have them die within the first hour of play. It's like, what? Like this sucks. So, that's it. People, I mean, they came out with like Dungeons and Dragon playing aids, basic dungeons. Set 2 was caves and caverns, lower dungeons. Outdoor, they had the Walled City. They had a book on monsters and treasure assortments. They came out with record sheets. They came out with the Dungeons and Dragons God, Demigods, and Heroes. So they're leaving all that first edition stuff that they had. And then they talk about the original Dungeons and Dragons supplements. They had Greyhawk, Blackmoor, Eldritch Wizard, Sword, and Spells. And then they started promoting the Dragon magazine. So all this stuff came out within the first year. So do you think they did a pretty good job of supporting this box set and the game and this new edition right out the gate?
I mean, I might have put out the Dungeon Master handbook first, but yeah, I mean, everything came out, was ready to go really quickly, so
Yeah,
it worked for them.
it did. I mean, we're still here now, 5 editions later, almost 50 years or 45 years, something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
but one of those editions doesn't really count.
Excuse me, fourth edition.
No, yeah,
So, um, yeah, I mean, this is the beginning, and it was simple. It was fun to play. You didn't have like maps or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure some players did, but it was mostly you had scratch paper and you had your characters and you had your dice, and everything was just in your imagination.
yeah.
Like the DM you just kept track of the monsters. Like literally, when I would DM, I had a separate paper that I would put giant 1, 2, 3 or orc 1, 2, 3, and then you would just tell me which orc are you attacking, and then if we had like a discussion of whether you could do something, I would reread through the room, and I'm like, oh, the room's like blah blah blah. Like there wasn't how it is now, where you have all these grids and everything's precise and all this measurement. Back then, it was just like you just as a DM and as a player, you were just playing and having a good time, and the rules were there just to help you enjoy the game.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know, are you saying that like condescending, or are you agreeing with that?
No, I mean, I'm a visual person, so it helps having the map out. You kind of get the idea of what you can do by range and stuff. But I do agree it's blocky and confining of like the imagination and stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, I loved like when like the first thing when third edition came out and they really started breaking down the miniature figure rules and all that. I loved that because that was something I was always craving. Instead of having you just had your miniatures and your maps were never in proportion in a sense, and you know what I'm saying. But overall, what'd you think of first edition now? What do you think of this opening box set?
I mean, pretty good. I mean, you can definitely tell that they've improved upon the rules over time.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, like this is what started it. This is what started me in my love for D&D and fantasy art. Um, as a little kid, because I'm an artist, this is where I started to learn how to draw. I was trying to copy this. And so I hope you guys enjoyed this little video. We're going to our next trip down memory lane will be B1. And so because Greg hasn't played through all of these, we're just gonna be giving you like a non-spoiler review. Like I'm not gonna really go over the rooms that much. I'm just gonna be giving like premises, and Greg, as a veteran player, will give his opinion. Where like, oh, that sounds interesting. That sounds cool to play through, or okay, that's different, or I could not like it, and and that's what happens when you have these adventures. So, anything else you want to add for closing thoughts, Greg?
Mm, nothing really comes to mind.
There it is. I think we covered it all, people. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did and made it this far, hit the like button, leave a comment below if you played. We'd love your support. So if you're new to the channel or you're just stopping by, subscribe so you don't miss another video. And with that, we'll catch you later.
See you, everyone.